So now we've made it to the third and final category, the social category, and we are going to talk about all of the social self triggers. So what do I mean by this? I mean any any situation where you find any social situation where you find yourself that you feel uncomfortable. So before we move on here, I want to remind you that we are born and wired for social connection. We need social connection for our survival. And so this is huge. And my daughter, I guess a few years ago, introduced me to the idea. She was talking about someone and said, oh, well, they have a very um, small social battery. And I said, what are you talking about? And she explained to me what it was. And I'm like, wow, that's genius. That's perfect for here. And so to think about ourselves and how big our individual social batteries are, because we each have one. And every single one of us, our batteries are going to be different. So, for instance, I have a very small social battery. It doesn't take a lot of social interaction for my battery to fill up. And what's important to note is that I still have a social battery. It might be small, and I need connection with others is critical for my survival, as with everybody else. And it could be, so my guess is my husband has a much larger social battery. And so it takes more social interaction for his battery to fill up and to also drain. So, first, I want you to start thinking about your social battery instinctively. How big is it? Now, here are a few examples of situations, social situations that you may find yourself in that will be triggering for your for your stress response cycle. So adjusting to new social situations, whether that's at a new workplace, let's say you go to a new country and there are different social customs and so on. Whatever social situation you find yourself in that you're not used to, that would be a new one, and adjusting to that might take you time. Any social situation where you may feel uncomfortable, being bullied or knowing that you're a source of gossip. And here's the opposite, isolation or rejection. So we know that during COVID, a lot of people who were alone had to isolate, and they were isolating alone. And we know that for the majority of those people, they struggled the most. And it just indicates how much isolation is damaging. When we look at the prison system, there are laws around, at least to my knowledge, and I could be very wrong because I'm not very well versed in this, but it is my understanding that there are laws around putting prisoners in isolation for certain lengths of time. You just can't do it because of just how damaging it is for them. So being too isolated or rejected can be very damaging. We need social community. We need community. It's been a way that we've survived. We haven't, in all this history leading up to modern times, we've always lived in communities. We've survived by being community, and we need others to survive. So we need that connection, and isolation is very, very damaging. I don't know how much else I can emphasize to you how important this point is and how much it triggers your stress response cycle. For many, confrontation can be very triggering. Confusing social situations, keeping calm when faced with someone who's upset. I know tons of people who like watching the airport reality shows. And so what do you see? You see tons of confrontation. You see unhappy passengers going face to face with ticket agents, yelling at them. So those ticket agents must be exhausted at the end of the day. Customer service people who are faced with irate customers. In order for them to keep calm, they need to have a certain level of self-regulation. And even then, at the end of the day, I am sure they are just drained from having to keep calm when faced with someone who's upset. Because instinctually, our nervous system wants to go and meet because we perceive that yelling, that person who's yelling, as a threat. And so our bodies want to respond to protect us. So damping down on that natural instinct to protect ourselves is very draining. Public speaking, we all know, or we've heard that for many, public speaking is as scary as some of the scariest things out there. And if you think about it, you're going in front of a group of people, you're exposing yourself, and you have no idea how people are going to react. You're putting yourself in a very, very vulnerable position. And so that can really trigger your stress response. Just me, I'm not speaking in public, I'm speaking into a camera, I'm speaking into potentially, I don't know, a whole bunch of people, strangers on the other end. I have no idea how you're going to react to this. So just me speaking in front of this camera has triggered, over all of these videos, has triggered my stress response cycle. And in just thinking, okay, we know about social media. Are people going to be rude with their comments and so on? So my stress response cycle has been triggered. I have more adrenaline and my heart is pumping faster. I'm breathing shallower in order for me to attend and pay attention and focus on delivering all of these videos. And another example, and certainly not the least, not being understood. So if you are speaking to someone and repeatedly they are coming back with a response that indicates to you that they haven't understood, that can lead to a triggering of a stress response as it triggers frustration and a whole host of emotions. And so here you are with another person or several people, and if you can't express yourself and be understood, that can also trigger your stress response. So key questions: what social situations do I find stressful? And the other question is, what social situations do I not find stressful? So you could find these questions in the workbook, and I encourage you to take note of your answers either in the workbook or a random piece of paper. So we're going to move on to the final video of triggers, the other social triggers, at least the other category.